Hi everyone, welcome back to the Babbling Irons. So I'm not going to lie, guys, this is not going to be a happy one. We've just come off of yet another humbling, humiliating decimation. And the worst part is we didn't even make it difficult. So 5-0 we lost again today. I think that is the fourth or fifth time this season we've lost by 5 goals. We are now equal to Avram Grant's record of 70 goals conceded in the season. Let me just rephrase that. Last time we conceded 70 goals, we were relegated. We've conceded 70 goals, and why some Moyes people might go, yeah, but isn't that, but how good is Moyes that we can concede 70 goals and still stay up? It's usually they can polish a turd that Moyes laid and tell us that it was, the most brilliant piece of art by it. Simple fact of the matter is we've conceded 70 goals. We have 2 games left of the season. And we're just sitting here I'm being told consistently and constantly, be careful what you wish for. So I'll put it to you, Sloth. When you watched today, was you careful what you wished for before you watched this Chelsea game? Is that why we lost? Was you not careful enough with what you was wishing for?
I was very, very lucky today that my laptop saved me because I was in a pub. Let's say that laptop got a lot less attention as the game progressed. Look, I'm not going to mix my words. I think it's absolutely pathetic. We rode our luck against Liverpool. Anyone who watched that game will tell you that Liverpool should have beaten us. We did some things well. And, Bowen and our attacking players do take a lot of credit in that. However, anyone with a pair of eyes and a brain that is, willing to fairly assess something will admit that Liverpool had the chances to bury us and be out of sight. Today, our finishing, we hit the woodwork, 3 times? Yeah. And quite often, if those had gone in, it deflects completely from the issue. People go, oh, well, we scored 3. And how often do you score 3 and you get beaten? Well, we scored 3 against Newcastle and we still lost. The fact is that we cannot defend. We haven't been able to, for a good 2 seasons now, actually defend. And even though Moyes will point at the fact that we don't have Declan Rice because, he embarrassed our players in the press conference by saying, the difference is we don't have Declan Rice. What's that supposed to say to Alvarez? What kind of message are you sending to your own dressing room?
You made a tweet that hit the nail bang on the head, and something that we have said and I have said consistently, and it angers me because of that muppet. Actually, no, I really don't want to. I don't want to be the person that starts throwing insults at him. But it's just that comment just rolled me so much. But he made the point that we lost because we didn't have Declan Rice, in the sense of we've conceded so many goals because Declan Rice does the work of 2 players. Or that he's that good. That is true. However, we outright said, now we're not paid professionals. We are fans that have a semblance of knowledge around football. I say semblance. Yeah. It doesn't mean a good one. But
I'm like a dog with a squeaky ball.
Absolutely. I'm full of enthusiasm, but not always the knowledge. But we outright said that when Declan Rice goes, you need 2 players to replace him. You need one who is defensively astute and good on the ball, and the other one you need to be highly athletic, but also a very good defensive acumen. The club supposedly had Youssef Fofana lined up, as well as Alvarez. Moyes said no, he wanted James Ward-Prowse. Now, James Ward-Prowse has done well, obviously, with the goals and assists, etc. However, to be sitting there saying you are missing a Declan Rice, and you had the ability in which to create a Declan Rice out of 2 players who are very, very good. And let's not forget, Youssef Fofana has been linked with Arsenal recently, PSG, been linked with Manchester United as well, and other top teams across Europe. That was lined up to come in along with Alvarez. And then you have the audacity to turn around and say, basically, you don't have the players. You could have had players in
What else frustrates me is that even if you look at what we did in January, you know, we brought in Phillips, and I'm not going to mix my words. It's a complete disaster of a deal. It's probably the worst loan deal in history, and I think when you look at the finances behind that, and you compare it to Crystal Palace, who brought in Adam Wharton, that's a fantastic signing. That is a young player who has got tons of potential. He could potentially be the next Declan Rice in terms of them selling him on for a huge amount. Now, that's not what we want to aim for. But when you're looking to replace Declan Rice and you want an aspect of that player, if you get to January and you go, right, we need someone in the defensive midfield, someone to come in and help shore us up, what are we going to do? Are we either going to go with a very highly paid player who hasn't played for well over a year and is not match fit, or a young player playing loads of games in the Championship, really working his craft and proving himself to be ready for the next level in the Premier League? What are we going to do? You wasted all that money on a terrible deal for Phillips, and this guy is absolutely tearing it up at Crystal Palace. Humiliated, they humiliated us, and it's just a total lack of planning. It's then scapegoating and throwing your own side under the bus because you have failed at your job to recruit. Now, part of that is down to Sullivan because he has refused to recruit a left winger after selling multiple left wingers. However, that's only going to cause the same problem that we just mentioned in the case of Newcastle. We could score 4 goals today. We could score 3 goals today, but we would still lose that match because it's just papering over the cracks that our defence is so poor and so old, past its best, and lacking in any sort of agility that we are constantly the source of our own downfall. And
it's funny because you could be explaining David Moyes right there as well. The way you just described our defence explains Moyes. And I'm not saying old in a disrespectful way. I mean in the terms of he's so old-fashioned and old school in his approach. He refuses pretty much anything that is a modernisation and a more unorthodox, maybe in his mind, approach to certain things. Again, the lack of agility, the lack of being able to change. But look at the subs today. You brought on Danny Ings. What is the point of bringing on Danny Ings? Brought on Cresswell. What is the point of bringing on Cresswell?
Yeah,
we're getting absolutely smashed. Bring on the young lads, Earthy. Bring on Casey. Yes, we may still get smashed with them on the pitch, but at least get those boys on the pitch and go, you know what? We're just go out there and play. Show me what you've got. I might not play you in the next game, but just go out and show me that I've got nothing left to achieve by using these other guys. But then again, that also just shows why Moyes has never been about a long-term thing. It's always my players are for this year and this year only. They're chess pieces. It's a B-Tech Mourinho approach to squad building, quite frankly.
The problem is that when managers bring on young players in those situations, if you're 3-0 down and you bring on a youngster, quite often people or pundits or fans will go, what are you doing bringing on a youngster when you're 3-0 down? What's that going to do for their confidence? It's not about that. It's about giving them minutes. It's about them finding their feet and being able to make that step up. Whether they can impact the match positively and maybe they keep it 3-0, get a goal back, whatever it might be, it's about finding the minerals and being able to test them. Cresswell coming on the pitch, to me, at this point in the season, is just a slap in the face to everything the academy stands for. Look, fair enough. I'm not the right person to criticise him because I've been very vocal about my opinions of him, his actions, and what I think about his contract at the club. People might pick at that and say, you've got an agenda. I've made my opinions very clear. So if you feel like that's an agenda, that's you're fair enough to believe that. However, what is the point of giving him any minutes on the pitch when he's very clearly leaving? He wants out. He refused to train in the summer over someone like Skulls, someone young who can come in, make an impact, and we can see whether they're ready to make that step up. It's embarrassing.
That's the point here, right here as well. You can see what the youngsters are like in a bad situation. The truth of the matter is, you can't always bring these players into sanitized situations when you're 2-3-0 up. Sometimes you have to bring them in when you're losing to see, well, what is their attitude? Can they come on and do something positive? Also, it gives the fans at least something to go, well, you know what, Earthy came on, he had a couple of really good little moments in there. That it gives you something tangible to hang on to in the utter catastrophe that has been the 2024. I don't care what anyone says about Europe, because I'm going to be really blunt about our whole European journey. Every game we won, we should have won. The team that we had, we should have won. So is there an achievement in winning games you should win? You can say yes, because you've managed to do it. However, probably Lyon, based on where they were at the time, yes, we should have won that. The game against Sevilla, that was an achievement in my eyes. But every other game we've played, we should have won them, and we did. And the only times when we've come up against probably our level in terms of teams or above, we've been beat. Frankfurt were our level. They beat us, knocked us out. Bayer Leverkusen above us, knocked us out. The only time in Europa Conference League we come up against someone on our level was Fiorentina. It was an achievement to win the tournament, but I'm not going to overblow it like, oh no, it's really difficult because what Villa's doing. Who cares what Villa are doing? But yeah, they got beat by Olympiacos. We got beat by Olympiacos. But the truth of the matter is, it shouldn't be, nor should it be.
But that's the thing, is that Fiorentina are a Europa level side, so they're the sort of side that we should be expecting to face in the Europa League. It's good if we can beat them in a one-off game, because that's what you need to do. You need to be able to beat that level of side if you want to make it in the Europa League. But the fact is that, look, Bayer Leverkusen may well do something totally unprecedented, and they may well go on and win, have this invincible season, which is fantastic. You cannot sit there and tell me that, having watched the Karabakh game, having watched the game against us, that they are invincible. They're not there to be get at.
You look at that first leg. We blew that first leg.
It's they're a fantastic side. But Roma in the next round, Roma have been very poor. They've conceded a lot of goals. And, they demolished Brighton, but you cannot judge a team off, a couple of matches. And the thing is that Bayer Leverkusen have consistently had to come from behind to keep this invincible record, because they do concede. And if we had a bit more quality across the pitch, which is something that we're constantly told is going to come, it's going to come under Moyes, it's going to come under Sullivan spending and leading the club, taking us to this next level, we'd have got there. We'd got there in one of the seasons in Europe. But it's just consistently poor squad management. It's the point where now these players are burnt out. They're tired. There's no rotation in there. That first 11 they look dead on their feet. And if anyone wants to tell me that today that starting 11 looked at the races and fit, I'm going to, I think you're probably lying. Just kind of make yourself feel better.
It goes 1-0. We're done. I almost messaged you guys in the WhatsApp chat the moment we went 1-0 to say game over. Because
first 15, we looked all right. First 15, we looked all right. And then it's like we've constantly said, as soon as we concede, the heads just go down.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
And what would you say to this? Do you think Moyes has raised our standard? Personally, I'd say he has. And he did raise the standards because of what we were. He brought many aspects within the club up. However, I will also say, in the last 2 seasons on the pitch, we have regressed. So whilst he raised those standards have also dropped, and he's allowed them to drop because of essentially the level of recruitment. What he's done in terms of that recruitment has allowed those standards to slip, to allow players consistently out of form to remain in the team, has allowed standards to slip, to put Kurt Zouma as captain, and to penalise him and remove him from the squad when all he does is jog back because he's not even got. Partly it's not his fault because he's only got one functioning knee anyway. Is Moyes allowing those standards to slip? So whilst he has raised them over the last 2 seasons, I don't care what anyone says. I've been saying it all season as well. Those standards have been slipping. We have been a bad football team for 2 years. The problem is, our start of the season, the results didn't reflect a bad football team. And as I said at the time, it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy thing of people look at that old adage of, well, even if you play badly and you win, that's what a good team does. Good team wins when they're bad, when they're playing badly. But it happens so often that people started to believe that we must actually be a good team because we're still finding ways to win, even though we're playing bad. But in actual fact, it was just a happy delusion. It's collective delusion, I will say. And it's not a bad thing, but it was, people were looking at it as in, well, we must be a good team because we're finding a way to win these games. And we were lucky.
I think he's definitely raised the standards in quite a few areas. You know, he's raised the standards of the players that we can attract because of the level that we finished at and the fact that we've competed in Europe. You know, it's not just the fact that we qualified for Europe, it's the fact that we actually competed. However, where we've really regressed is the fact that we haven't been able to capitalize on this success in terms of, you know, we get to the January window and then suddenly all the money's gone, all the moths are leaving the wallet, and it's where that window is a chance to progress, just like the summer is. You know, if you can look at the squad, and Liverpool did it when we wanted to sign Diaz. They came in and immediately they said, that's actually a player we want, we're going to go and sign him. We faffed around for the rest of the window when Moyes knew he wanted Darwin Núñez and he didn't move. You know, we also wanted Terem Moffi, but Moffi didn't want to join us. Now, you can't do anything with that. So why are we still chasing him? Why are we delaying? Why did we not bring someone in? The fact is that when you're looking to progress, you have to be able to adapt and overcome. And it's an incredibly frustrating thing to have someone who's done so much for you and then have to needle and say, yeah, but here are the glaring flaws of what you could have done. And it's like watching an episode of Bullseye and someone is just constantly missing what they need to do. They're just like a point off. Yeah. And Jim Bowen stood there going, well, let's have a look at what you could have won. And there's the speedboat just in the distance. And it's like, oh God, it's so close. It's a player or two away from progressing us. But the fact that he constantly goes, I like a small squad. I'm going to sign Danny Ings and I'm going to bring in Calvin Phillips. He's backing those decisions as opposed to actually taking a chance on a young player or dithering, you know, the famous moniker, and him saying, oh, I'm going to leave it really late to get the Darwin Núñez medical when he's away on international duty, basically, you know, shoot himself in his foot. It's incredibly difficult to not mention that when you're saying, yes, he's done a very good job for us. And in my opinion, he has progressed us to a point where it's fair to say we should be competing. But the fact is that he's also the reason we're not. It's part of him, and it's partly down to Sullivan. And look, this January window, it was all Sullivan. You know, whether or not the Phillips deal has hit us as hard as you know we all think it has. There are many who might argue that there's 10 other people on the pitch who could have impacted that. It's totally fair. However, Sullivan's the one who stopped us buying a left winger. You know, he's the one who has then said, well, right, guys, we could progress in Europe. Should we go out and sign a striker? Should we go out and sign a left winger? What should we do? Oh, I've noticed you've conceded a lot of goals this season. Moyes, do you want to step back? He is also responsible. So even if you just said to Steiten, look, you can have the money now and you can go out and try and sign players. or you can have it in the summer. It's the fact that these things aren't being done, and if you have that situation, you can progress, and you do not capitalize it, you are just as guilty.
Oh, mate, absolutely. And just to kind of go back on a point made about the small squad, I agree with Slob. This is the Red Bull model. It's all about having 13 players and as many Red Bull cans as you can to get them through the 60 games a season. It's just kind of true. It's just that talks about this young, hungry model. We haven't seen that at all. It's the oldest squad or the second oldest squad in the Premier League, bar none. You look at him on the pitch, where's that hunger and desire? He looks beaten. He looks crestfallen. He looks a dead man walking. And the players on the pitch today, and quite often, I think in this second half season, have been a direct representation of that. And yes, the players do have to take a level of responsibility. It does also feel to me as if, whilst he hasn't lost the dressing room, I know this is going to sound weird what I'm about to say, whilst he hasn't lost the dressing room, he has lost their faith. And what I mean by that is that they don't dislike him. They don't necessarily want to do bad by him. However, they have little faith in his tactics or his setup is going to get them anything. And you can and the reason I say that is because when you look at just how individual they seem to play on the pitch, players just bursting out at random points to try and press. There's no real cohesion to it. Someone bursts out, no one drops into that space, which clearly says that is not the tactic. Moyes even kind of suggested that today, but however, stating there's no leadership, etc. It's like, well, hang on, the leadership comes from you. That then filters onto the pitch, and your captain should also be a direct reflection of your leadership. That's what that should be. Mark Noble must be sitting there watching this, going, "What the absolute holy hell is going on with this?"
It's incredibly frustrating because the only players today who can actually hold their head up high are Kudus and Bowen. And let's face it, if you're Kudus, you're probably thinking, I don't really want to be here. This club's in turmoil. Moyes isn't going to be here. We haven't got European football. And when I look around, the sort of recruitment we're going to need, do I really want to be here for a season of transition? It's very hard to look at the quality we have and go, how are we going to keep these guys happy?
And you only, as a player, you're only willing to do a season of transition if the manager coming in is exceptional, or a manager that is a name. Yeah, and a manager that when they turn up and they say it's going to be a season transition, however, we're also going to excel. Horrible example because of who they are, and they also got thumped today, so that can help us a little bit. But Tottenham, that transition, they felt their transition pains at the end of the season as opposed to the start. But that's the kind of point of that transition can happen very quickly. It can be something slow. It can be something kind of that happens over long term. If you have a manager who is able to translate and basically make football fun again, I don't think our players find it entertaining to play in our NLT. I do believe they enjoy playing for West Ham. They enjoy playing for the fans. However, they don't enjoy playing for the club in its current guise, because it is such an incredible drain physically, and they're being asked to do this predominantly over the last 3 years, 2 times a week, with very little break or rotation. And if you're on the peripherals of the team and you're now coming in, you get very little kind of gratitude or favour when you do come in and you do perform as well. So I can't imagine it's possibly as vibrant as it could be. I know that the team always does look happy and so on, but I do just look at it and think they probably could be in a better place. It just,
I think it's really hard to assess our defence, and when we constantly look at players who have been so poor for a number of weeks and there's no changes, it's hard to assess that, because you either wonder how bad are the others, how bad are the other players on the training ground that he keeps picking them? Or you have to question why the manager just sticks with them. Why is he just sticking with them when they continue to play so poorly? And that's what's part of the problem. When you look at, you mentioned the managers coming in, I don't think any of them are going to look at Lopetegui and go, oh, wow, that's an exciting appointment. That's someone who's really going to, motivate me to do better. The fact is that he works well with the recruitment team. He does work well with the recruitment team. There's a reason he was chief scout at Real Madrid. However, you also have to look at what he's achieved and how he plays, and the players that we have. You say, well, is that really going to get them excited to stay around? Are they really going to try and turn down an offer from, say, Liverpool or Newcastle, who might be spending to achieve, as opposed to just kind of spending to placate and sort of stay in and around the mix, which is what we've done for years. It's a case of they're going to look to go to that next level. And you've got to say that with the sort of appointment we're rumoured to be making, it's not what we're doing. We're appointing to stay where we are. Someone like Amorim would be a statement, and that's the sort of thing that a Kudus would go, actually, you know what? I'll give it a season. I want to play under this manager. I want to see what all the fuss is about. And if it doesn't work out, well, I know that I've given 100%. And
also, my release clause comes into effect as well.
Yeah,
the following season.
I know that I've done this. I know that I've given 100%. I've had a good season, and I've tried my best. This release clause is there as my bailout, if you like. And it's the fact that if Lopetegui's coming in and you suddenly get a knock at the door from Liverpool and their new manager, Arne Slot, going, I want you to be a focal point for this. I want you to take us forward. What are you going to do? You're not going to go, nah, I think I'll stay at West Ham because they've got Julian Lopetegui and we might bring in a couple of players.
And isn't this the point? And yeah, we're all very familiar with what's going on with this. It's a known agent. The agent being Salthouse, also most likely using Silkman as well. And again, if you're a player, you're seeing all of this. You're seeing a chairman who is outright and directly ignoring what is declared as a club legend in Mark Noble, who is one of your sporting directors, who is sitting there and saying, we should be ambitious. We need to show ambition. We've got a good team. We need to show this team we have ambition to go forward. These are the players that we should be looking at. And this is the manager to take us forward, isn't it, in Ruben Amorim? You can then see as a player that you've got the technical director also saying that, thank you, Moyes, we've had our time. We're going in a new direction. This is the direction I want to go in. I also back Ruben Amorim. These are my reasons why. Like we've told the players, well, the type of players are looking to bring in which to support that manager. There's no two ways about it. Those conversations have been had internally. It's just going to have happened. And then they see the small little chairman coming in with his big swinging dildo dick, just going, yeah. Well, my mates, I've been talking to my mates, right? We're basically down the pub, and we've come up with a plan. So they're slightly self-serving. Don't worry about that. I'll sort them out with the self-serving bits. And I know you guys, I've employed you to put the best interest of the football club at heart. But these lads, they've been with me thick and thin, making deals, making money. We've got a really good partnership together. And I don't want to break that because there's money in this. And it's cheap. And that's what I want. I want nice, cheap, and dirty because that suits me. Cheap and dirty because that's what I am. And that's what I want to have in a manager. I want Moyes Mark II with a bit of a shiny Spanish look about him, with a CV that kind of glistens, but really the player that is exactly the same, who is grateful to have a job. And Timmy, if I can just have a word with you, can I interest you in buying you off on this idea by just saying I'm going to give you control of transfers? I know he's not your man, but if I give you transfers, is that enough? Is it enough? Is that going to tickle your balls enough in which to excite you and let me have what I want? That's
I
what
would
it
not.
just feels like.
I would not be shocked if, like, Lopetegui is not the kind of manager to mess around. You know, if he gets to a January window, and he goes, I need this, this, and this to push us forward, and Sullivan goes, well, let me see what I can do about that. He's just going to go, no, and we'll be right back to square
That's
one.
exactly
In fact, we'll be 3 steps behind, because we'll then have an unhappy, director of football. We'll have Mark Noble, who's probably going to be fuming, and then we'll have.
I'm looking at it this way. I think either Tim starting to make Noble, if Lopetegui happens after, quite frankly, a very big push in the media, clearly saying how them two are pushing Amorim and not really that keen on Lopetegui. Why would you stay? You've been humiliated in January.
I think, as I said, Lopetegui works well with with a football recruitment team, and I don't think Stratton will have any issues working with him. It will be a case of, if he can have a budget, Lopetegui's going to work with him. He's not going to say, no, I don't want that player, like Moyes might have pushed back against him. He's going to work with him, and I don't think there'll be any issues there. I think the fact will be, if we get to a January window and David Sullivan suddenly goes, actually, well, I'm not going to bankroll that. I'm going to give you this player. Lopetegui's just going to go, well, I'm off. I'm not having this, because that's the sort of man he is. That's not an insult or anything. He's just going to go, well, this isn't the job that I took over. I can't progress this team forward like he did at Wolves, and we're going to then be left with an even worse situation than we will be at the end of the season, where we've got a load of players that have been brought in, and Amorim, he's probably going to have another job, and we're going to be looking for another cheap manager who's out of contract, out of work, because January is a difficult time to do anything. So
there's no one available.
Yeah, there's no one available, and it's going to be the same old sorry excuses, when instead of that, we could pay £10 million, get Amorim out of his contract, and then say, look, the first season is going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, because it's going to be a transition of systems. There's going to be a big squad overhaul. But you can say to someone like Kudus, you can say to Bowen, you're my focal points. You two are going to be the people I want to take this forward. And that's going to buy you time. If you give Amorim a full season and you say, we're fully behind you, January window, if we're underperforming, you can come to us, tell us what you want. We're going to back you. That's how you win and progress. It's as simple as that. It's not a case of, oh, I'll speak to Silkman, I'll speak to Salthouse and see what we can do. It's nonsense after nonsense from the people in charge of this football club, who believe that they and the self-serving people that contact them have the best interests of no one other than themselves, and yet they think that will make a football club work. It's just not what happens, and we need a massive change. It's not just something from the managerial perspective, because I do think, and maybe I might get pelters for this, I do think that if we backed Moyes more with someone like Solanke in the summer, and with Osman in the winter, with Maguire as an option at centre-back, we would have seen a better performance in the league. But that would have come on top of the spending that we'd already done, that we have done this year. If we had done that, I do think we'd have seen a better performance this season. Do I think we'd have been up and around Europe? No, not really, not unless we could have got the Solanke that Bournemouth have had all season. I think it's all ifs and buts. However, I think that's the sort of thing we need to be looking at. We need to be saying, we're going to back you. We're going to give you a squad, not just a starting 11 and then a couple of players you can chuck on, 75 minutes into the game. We need to be building the squad, and whoever comes in, whether it's Lopetegui, and I would say, if you're against it, make your voice heard. make your voice heard. If you go to the next game, if you go to the away games, make your voice heard. Because I've already signed and shared a petition to say I don't want Lopetegui. It's nothing against him. I don't think he'd be terrible. But when you have your director of football and you have Mark Noble there saying we want this guy, and it's going to cost £10 million, but we want him. That's who you listen to. You don't just go for the cheapo option.
The other inside,
the people who know football.
And this is going to cost us £10 million. This is a guy who could take and elevate this squad up. He can allow you to buy players cheaper and develop them. Say, for instance, you could go and buy an Ugarte for £7.5 million, sell him for about 60 to 80 million, like he did to PSG. This is the type of manager you can bring those types of players in, and within a year to 18 months, that's the potential uplift you can get on it. That 10 million you invest now, you are going to make back tenfold. Also, you can invest £10 million now and insert a clause into his contract that he has a release clause of 20 million. So you get your 10 million back plus 10 million on top. That's how it works. You get a top manager like that, and then you caveat the crap out of his contract that you are so protected that if anyone comes in, you go, there's the fee. If you want him, you need to pay that. And what they pay is top dollar. Because if you go and get an elite manager and you pay him elite money, you make sure that you then have an elite buyout clause. And if you're worried about, which is most probably what it actually is about, is David Sullivan worried about what if it fails and I've got to sack him, it's going to cost me X amount of money to get rid of him. Then you put caveats into his contract that if you are not performing to a certain level, these are the buyouts of your contracts to get rid of you.
Now, I just want to address someone in the comments. Mark has put hounding out manager and hounding one manager out and petitioning the new manager. What's wrong with this picture? Well, you've not listened to what we've said, Mark. That's what's wrong with the picture. Ultimately, we're not hounding out Moyes. We're assessing his time here. And if you disagree with what we're saying, fair enough. That's you're more than welcome to disagree with what we're saying. But I think we've pretty fairly assessed it. And if you're happy with 5-0 losses to Fulham, if you're happy with throwing away a 3-1 lead away at Newcastle, if you're happy with losing 5-0 to Chelsea, that's fine, mate. I've supported West Ham for long enough that I've seen many a result like that. However, if you're happy with the fact that you've been lied to by an owner who is constantly talking about progression, and you're happy with the fact that the manager is constantly throwing players under the bus, but there's no change, you're happy with the fact that he's not bringing through any youngsters, he's giving players who are refusing to play and train time on the pitch because they're his mates and he can trust them, as opposed to someone like Scarles who could come in, that's fine with me. But if you're sat here and saying that me signing a petition that I think Mark Noble, one of the best representatives this club's ever had, and Tim Stein should be listened to when it comes to recruitment, well, I'm afraid you're on the wrong channel and you've not really listened to what we've been saying.
In fairness, Mark, he does turn around and say he's not attacking. It's more about the state of affairs.
But it's the fact that we constantly hear from the press, be careful what you wish for. Today, and many performances over the season, we've seen what Moyes can do, and we've seen the worst of Moyes. And I'm incredibly grateful for what he's brought to the football club. However, you have to understand that there are limitations. And when you're just going, well, be careful what you wish for, as opposed to assessing it and saying, right, here's where we can improve. Who could be a manager to come in and change that? Which is what Mark Noble and Steichen will be doing. It's that backwards mindset. It's completely toxic to a football club. And that is what David Sullivan wants.
And I think the other thing it's been made clear that, by the regular ITKs, that Sullivan is incredibly aware that Lopetegui is not a favoured person of the West Ham fan base. However, he wants to do it anyway. Now, I think that's the point of that petition. It's AC Milan did it. I know someone put up the petition that, as a joke because of what obviously AC Milan did it, but also was the point of when you are so hamstrung essentially as a fan base or as a fan and so powerless, what other ways can you voice that? other than singing in the crowd in the away end or in the home end saying we don't want Lopetegui, or we want Ruben Amorim, singing that out, 60,000 fans singing that to make it very clear. We have no other choices other than to potentially make a spectacle of ourselves. And that's what Milan did. They made a spectacle of themselves, but also because they have the ultras, because they have the way Italy is in terms of those kind of clubs and where those ultras are, they are huge organisations. They are able to influence, but makes that point very, very much to the owners. And the thing is, if say Lopetegui was to be employed, he's immediately under pressure. Not because he's replaced David Moyes, but it's because of the way he's coming. And there's a point that was raised here. Yeah. So I don't want J-Lop. I love that as a name. I don't want J-Lop. That we're getting it. It's not that fact we're getting him. It's more the way and why we're getting him. And that's the point. If it was a fair, balanced conversation and he was coming out as the top, you would kind of go, I don't like it, but I can accept it. If he's been maybe the more enthusiastic, the better presentation, the one that's more aligned to the club goals. Okay, it's not great. I have to put my own personal preferences to one side because he's obviously done something to encourage. But when it's coming from the means that it is, which is being basically pushed by outside sources against the recommendations of those that have been in the game for years, one of them who had a hand in building Bayer Leverkusen as they are, helping to identify Xabi Alonso, Mark Noble, who has been part of the fabric for West Ham for 30 odd years, who knows the type of players that will fit the club. He seems to have a good eye for players as well when he's talking about the likes of Moffi, etc., who's liked Kudus, who's liked Alvarez. Clearly has an eye for a player that not only could work in the Premier League, but could also work in West Ham. He's also telling you, this is it. There is something fundamentally wrong. And as a fan base, you either sit there and be the mugs that the board think you are, or you try and do something to stand up and say something. That's why all those years ago with Hammers United, there was the huge march in the stadium until COVID saved David Sullivan's arse. And then his arse was doubly saved then when David Kretinsky came in. So the only way, if Lopetegui is something fans do not want, and I'm not saying fans should do this, and I'm not saying that it's right or it's wrong, but everyone has the right in which to express their feelings. If people do not want Lopetegui, the only way you can do that is expressing it in the next game by maybe singing Ruben Amorim's name, saying that you don't want Lopetegui. But if we lose the game, because again we haven't announced David Moyes is going, again this is the point that's going to make it spiteful. If there is no official confirmation, bar than what we've seen from Fabrizio Romano saying that it's happening, David Moyes has gone in for the season. There's no official announcement. You're already making what is a melting pot that is already ready to boil over to ignite. Like it did in that Burnley game. If we are losing against Luton and rumours are getting more heavily involved about Lopetegui, it is going to get to the point where fans are going to be singing that they want David Moyes out right there and then, which isn't going to be the what they wanted from Moyes anyway. They wanted Moyes to have his farewell game. It ought to be great. That's not going to happen if they don't say he's leaving. If they leave that lingering, that decision's still going to come, and they're going to keep perpetuating through various means and various sources that the Lopetegui's coming. It could turn into another Burnley moment where fans kind of gathering underneath the directors and screaming and hurling abuse and, making it incredibly hostile. But in some ways, it's probably the only way he is actually going to listen, because he is that pig-headed and ignorant. Also, he doesn't care what we think because he's not a West Ham fan. No matter what PR bollocks that he says, he's not. There's a video way back of him saying he's a Cardiff fan. He's a Cardiff boy. He even said that he wants to buy, when he sells Birmingham, wants to buy a London club because it's better for the commute. And this is almost a direct quotation, by the way, what I'm saying. And then he will sell them to go and buy his boyhood club, Cardiff. And then when he rocks out of West Ham, he says, it's my boyhood club. I've always supported them. Hey, you were born in Cardiff. You've already said in other interviews that your boyhood club is Cardiff. you're only saying it because you're with David Golden. It makes a wonderful narrative that a pair of West Ham fans have saved us from the obscure, becoming almost redundant as a football club and going into liquidation, all that crap that they were spewing. And this is the point. As fans, we're so at this point where we're held back by this one man. We're at this point where he is invested. I say invested, he hasn't. He's brought in people who you would say an investment in normal cases because they've been brought in, but he's not invested in these people because he's given them no autonomy. He's given them no power to do what they've been brought in to do. And he's constantly undercutting them to run his own little train set because he doesn't want anyone else to touch it. And it's killing the club and ripping it down and stopping it from ever getting to a point where it could genuinely actually move forward, because he either refuses to fund it, he refuses to do an action that goes against maybe sorting out one of his mates. And the January transfer window was all about sorting out his mates. He couldn't sort them out, so he had a tantrum like a little baby, and we did nothing. We just got Calvin Phillips.
I'm also going to caveat a little bit and just say that, it's part of my frustration is that I think when it is so clear how you can progress, and it's multiple seasons where we've had this opportunity to do so. It's very clearly been him that is holding us back, but it's the lack of ambition, and that isn't just on a Sullivan part. That is also Moyes in terms of him, delaying deals, and not seizing the opportunity and the initiative to take us forward. But what's really frustrating me is that the last 3 seasons have been amazing. They've been absolutely incredible, and I've had memories that I'll take to my grave. It's been amazing. And yes, some of the football has been dog shit. There's no other way to put it. But the point is that Moyes deserves a lot better. He does not deserve to be hung out to dry like this. He doesn't deserve the situation to be up in the air and basically no, word of what's happening with his contract. He's saying it's on the table. He may have been trying to strong arm that. And yeah, it's a little bit immature, but like we've said, with this whole Steichen getting, banned from the dressing room, it's a bit immature. But the fact is that it's a working environment, and you're perfectly entitled to not want to spend time with someone who's actively trying to replace you. But you also deserve to have a bit of recognition about what you've done. And if they're going to keep him for the rest of the season, what they should have said was, look, we're going to keep him for the rest of the season. We want the final home game against Luton to be a real celebration of his time here. And we're gonna make sure that we can give him a good send off, because we want to go to the next level. We want to do whatever we're going to do, plan in place, and we want him to know just what the last 3 years have meant to the West Ham fans. But that's not what's happening. We've thrown him under the bus, and we've basically, made him a very divisive character among West Ham fans, when he does not deserve that. He deserves a lot better, and so do the fans. The fans deserve a lot better, because we're paying money to go every single week, whether it's home, whether it's away. We're paying money to back these players. We don't deserve to see 4-5-0 losses and throwing away leads. And look, I get that that's part of football, but we don't then deserve the added horror of just messing about a manager off the pitch. The conduct, whether it's the silly comment about the Dildo Brothers, that his childish behaviour with the Sporting Lisbon executives, whether it's the way that he constantly talks to the press, or the fact that he makes these promises to fans about the new stadium, never delivers upon them, whether it's all these things that have built up and really just created this toxic environment. West Ham fans deserve better. and David Moyes deserves better. And it is very, very upset. It is very upsetting because I think, you know, David Moyes is an older man now, and he's got people like certain West Ham channels calling him a monster, abusing him, basically, you know, verbally abusing him. Now, it's just been a situation that has allowed to fester because of the running of this football club. And it's incredibly disappointing to see. And that's part of why I'm as annoyed as I am, because all of this was so avoidable. It was so avoidable with a bit of a plan and even just a statement to say, you know what, at the end of the season, we're going to say goodbye to David Moyes, or even an attempt at ambition. Instead of just loaning out your left winger, your centre back, your players like Kara, Ben Rama, instead of just letting them go, making a move, you know, doing something. But no, it's created this toxic environment, and quite frankly, it's not good enough. West Ham fans deserve better. David Moyes deserves better, and the players deserve better as well.
Yeah, what point? It's like a real life episode of EastEnders, and it is. And this is the point. I know I've sounded very much like a stern Moyes out person the whole way through. I've always said Moyes isn't necessarily my entire cup of tea. However, I've also said that we played some really great stuff in that time, and when he's winning, I'm not going to kind of pull down on his football, because when you're winning, you're getting the results, and that's good because your club's doing well. So regardless of your personal preference in the football, as long as the results are there in that respect, you can accept it if it doesn't adhere with your football ideal. When those results dry up, then it's not that it's open season, but it's more open to criticism. And we've been fair with Moyes, and in some cases he has been, I'd say, unduly unwarranted kind of comments made against him. Also, I would say some of the results haven't necessarily always been his fault, and there seems to be very crooked VAR decisions. However, the situation we're in now, where we are consistently saying he needs to go, he either needs to be sacked tonight, or he needs to just walk out or something, has come because the board have refused to show any level of, I guess, just presence. It was just presence, just being present in that moment, or just being observant to what's going on, to actually understand that, yeah, actually we're not going to take it forward. We owe a normal, decent human being would go, we owe it to the manager, we owe it to the fans, we owe it to the players to have that level of clarity. You can do it behind closed doors in terms of the players and the manager, it's fine. But also, it comes to a point where you then have to tell the fans as well, because when results are as they are, then it goes wrong. Liverpool did their timing wrong because they all knew what was happening, but they did it halfway through the season when I think they believed that they were going to win everything. And then their season crumbled because all of a sudden it kind of lost it. However, we've clearly known, you know, as a fan base, it's happening, despite some of the posturings, shall we say, that have been presented by, you know, certain news outlets and Moyes himself. I think it's been on the cards that he's been going for a long time. And yet it's just been allowed to build and build and build. And the only two reasons I can give for it is, one, it's cheaper to keep him and to just ride it out, whatever happens, and behind closed doors, apply some pressure to him and moan at him and saying, well, we should have been in Europe, etc., etc. And two, and probably the most likely reason, is he is the absolute perfect meat shield for David Sullivan and David Sullivan's incompetence. Because everything, which I always felt was back to him, can be deflected with Moyes. Because the transfer windows can always be put down to, Moyes is different. Yes, the board haven't helped, but Moyes he's different because we offered him players. He said no to them all, and he's different on others. Oh, he brought in this player didn't go very well. So it deflects away from their inadequacies. And as the team starts doing badly, it's, well, we're being good. We're honouring his contract. We're honouring a guy who has given us 4 fantastic years. the spin that it can constantly give us up, but and it's not going so well. But we need to honour that. So it then just riles fans up because, like, I understand why you want to honour it, but you're actually dishonouring him now by putting him in this position where what should be appreciation, if he'd have gone, people would have gone, I'm really sad that he's gone. He's been sacked in this way because of what has happened over the years. Some will obviously be happy. It's just that's what football is. But I think most people in some way will have at least some acknowledgement that he has done a level of good within there. But because he's been left in that position, again, he's a perfect deflection. Because rather than you directing the anger at the board for not showing a level of competence in their in their obligation in which to run the football club in the right way and to serve the football club in the right way, and by serving the football club, it's not just about the finances in the accounts, it's the fans. Because without the fans, those things don't really matter, in all honesty. If you don't have fans, you don't have a football club. You have a empty vessel of a stadium with a bunch of people going in to watch a sport. It's not a club anymore. It is just that. It's a spectator thing. It's not even really football anymore. And they have it's a dereliction of their duty in what they're doing to us in how they're managing this situation. And I know we're not really talking about the game today, but I think because this game is just epitomised and it's just brought up things that are far bigger than just one mere football game. There's a way that the whole game has gone. It just sums up West Ham. Near misses, opportunities in which to kind of claw back some dignity, but ultimately hampered by strange, bizarre decisions, bringing on, utilising assets that are beyond depreciated and giving them more time and just essentially doing the same thing again and again, but expecting a different result or just hoping there's a different result to come of it. That the game in its whole thing just seems to encapsulate 14 years under Gold, Sullivan and Brady. Now, obviously, there are the rumours that finances are coming in at the end of the month. In terms of May, there could be the 25% share split across. Now, the only thing you can hope is if that is true, that when that happens, that comes in before any decision is made on the manager, and that new prospective investor, whoever they are, if this is going to happen, is aligned, say, with David Kretinsky, and maybe has the backing of the Gold family as well. Because if that is what can happen, or at least they can align with David Kretinsky, their 25% would then at least give them essentially full power in which to manage the football club and take it away from David Sullivan. Because that is what we need. If we are going to get a new investor comes in at 25%, they have to be colluding, borrowing favours and giving the most beautiful lip service they ever can to the absent David Kretinsky to bring him on side. So whenever there is a vote at a board level for things such as we need to make a decision on the manager as to who to bring in, who to get rid of, do we back this player that Tim Starton wants and Mark Noble wants? What do we do with the youth system that Mark Noble suggesting we do? If those two can be the two can kind of work together, then we move away from David Sullivan. David Sullivan becomes an irrelevance, and all he becomes is a wallet. Because no matter what he tries to push and vote, he will never get enough votes. Because I am pretty sure Trip Smith is not going to side with David Sullivan on everything, or in anything, in fact. He may get the Gold family, but if he's only got 25% and the Gold family lose, it's going to be about 10% that they're going to lose, it's not going to equate to 50. And if you've got, on the other side, 25% and about 8%, he's never going to have an impact on the club again, to the point of he will lose interest and he will then start to sell up. That's the only way this club is going to move forward, is if this investor is true and this investor comes in during the end of this month. If they are to come in, I suspect it'll be the end of the season. And we need to hope that, one, they have finances, two, they have ambition to move the club forward and are aligned with the likes of Mark Noble and aligned with Tim Steiten, and that they are very much working with David Kretinsky as opposed to David Sullivan, because David Sullivan is going to take us nowhere. And if they are aligned to him, we're going to have the same continuance that we've always had. If they're not, then we're going to marginalize David Sullivan to the point of no matter what happens anymore, his shenanigans are not going to have zero impact because he will not have necessary power in which to influence and to move the club. And
I think that's a good summary of just the state of the football club. Yeah. I think that's it's a sad state of affairs, but after so many poor performances in this calendar year, you know, it is now just to the point where we have to say something has to change, and you know, make your voices heard. Make your voices heard at the Luton game. Make your voices heard away at Manchester City, which I think is going to be terrifying.
It's cool. That's how it feels at the moment.
I am dreading it because I genuinely think we could have a record-breaking score on our hands. The way that Manchester City are playing, you know, we could make Southampton look good. Is the scary thing. But,
and that's the worrying thing, isn't it? 70 goals conceded in a season where we were told up until January by a lot of people, shut up, be thankful what you've got. You're sick, we're sick. You're in Europe. We're now staring down the barrel, could potentially finish 14th if we don't win our next two games. If we continue to concede as we are, we could finish the season 14th from when we were in a place of 5th at the start of this year, winning only 3 games and conceding over 70 goals. The last time we conceded 70 goals, we were relegated.
Yeah.
Now, that is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And whilst they're saying be careful what you wish for, I don't think they really understand that what we're actually in. Because you can't tell people to wish too much when this is what you
wrap it up. I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or else it's going to completely ruin my night.
Yeah, so it has been cathartic. Sorry, guys, we haven't got through as many of the messages as we would like to. It's been another cathartic just rant session, really. But we really appreciate everyone commenting, everyone interacting.
And it's nothing personal against.
No, obviously, yeah. When we do rant and we don't chat, sorry. And it's football's emotional anyway, right, guys? So everyone's got an opinion, everyone's entitled to opinion. I'll always listen to whether you agree with me or you don't. That's what it is. But everyone, thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed, you must be a sadist if you have. Please do click the like button. Please do share. All these things help us and grow the channel, etc. And yeah, guys, you know, still got 2 more games to go. Let's hope the Luton game turns into a win. That would be nice to actually see a win. It'll be our 4 for the season. 2024 aspect of the season. So yeah, that's where we are. Sloth, final thoughts before we end. I think that's it.
what a disappointment! What a disappointing end to a promising season.
Yeah, I don't think I'll just say it as is. Can the season just end? So until next time, everyone, thanks for watching. And Sloth, one last thing, and that is
come on, you irons.
Irons.